Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am honored to stand here today to be the sponsor of this bill, this resolution, which was sponsored last year by Representative Grove. I had a constituent who contacted me, a Vietnam veteran, and asked me to sponsor this resolution, and I myself am honored to stand here and talk about this resolution in the Vietnam era as a former Air Force wife during the Vietnam War. This resolution recognizes March 30th, 2017 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Pennsylvania. The Vietnam conflict was fought in Vietnam from 1961 to 1975, and it involved North Vietnam and the Viet Cong in a conflict with the United States and South Vietnam. The United States became involved in the Vietnam conflict because policymakers in the United States believed that if South Vietnam fell to a communist government, then communism would spread throughout the rest of Southeast Asia. Members of the United States Armed Forces began serving in an advisory role to South Vietnam in 1961. As a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incidents on August 2nd and 4th, 1964, the Congress of the United States overwhelmingly passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, Public Law 88-408, on August 7th, 1964, which effectively handed over war-making powers to President Lyndon Johnson until such time as peace and security had returned to Vietnam. In 1965, the United States Armed Forces ground combat units arrived in Vietnam. By the end of 1965, there were 80,000 United States troops in Vietnam, and by 1969, a peak of approximately 543,000 troops was reached. On January 27, 1973, the Paris Peace Accords were signed, which required the release of all United States prisoners of war held in North Vietnam and the withdrawal of all United States Armed Forces from South Vietnam. And on March 30, 1973, the United States Armed Forces completed the withdrawal of combat troops from Vietnam. More than 58,000 members of the United States Armed Forces lost their lives in Vietnam, and more than 300,000 members were wounded. In 1982, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was dedicated in the District of Columbia to commemorate those members of the United States Armed Forces who died or who were declared missing in action. The Vietnam conflict was an extremely divisive issue among the people of the United States. And members of the United States Armed Forces who served bravely and faithfully for the United States during the Vietnam conflict were caught upon their return home in the crossfire of public debate about the involvement of the United States in Vietnam. Colleagues, this was a time when the members of our military were drafted. It was not a volunteer military. And I remember, quite frankly, as a member of a military family, some of those disparaging remarks coming home as a family who was stationed in Germany. It didn't matter if you had served in Vietnam, just the fact that you were a military family at the time. The disparaging remarks from family, friends, people in the community. It was very difficult because even if you were from a family where your loved one was drafted, members of the military serve their country honorably. We are a free nation because of the brave who serve. Whether they were drafted or were they members who joined the military on a volunteer basis. And I would like to see members, veterans who served in Vietnam stand if you had. I know it was several years ago, but I'm sure there may be members here who served during Vietnam. If you would please stand, if you had a family member. I think it's important that we recognize members of the Vietnam era. I can say that with all of these remarks and actions, a positive thing happened because of our Vietnam veterans. They were determined that no other military group of soldiers would return home to this country without the honor that they deserved. Many of our military organizations, filled with our Vietnam veterans, have made a concerted effort to make sure that our active military and our veterans are treated with the respect that they deserve for serving our country. Thank you for supporting this resolution and recognizing March 30th, 2017 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.